Well, now we got Jonah in. We want to welcome everyone to the second talk for today of our Artist in Conversation, featuring three more dope artists that we have in this show. Jonah, Kemal, and Elmer. Um, First of all, thank y'all for being here. Everyone, thank the artists especially. Um, Really, again, thank you again for being in the show, your time tonight. And let's start with how was the day, first off, because we came on talking about the weather on the East Coast versus the West Coast. But how was everyone's day so far?
It's been good. My day's been real good. The weather was perfect here.
that's, that's what he was talking. We keep bringing it up. I know Elmer's pissed about that. So,
Yeah, like I was telling you earlier, it was a little nippy, but I mean, it's how it is here. But yeah, it was cool. It's not like terribly cold yet, but it's getting there, man.
yeah, so it's kind of just like a start off of, a little introduction. Our exhibition was portraits is portraits of yesteryear. Portraits of yesteryear is talking about the portraits and events and the moments where we experience change or we experience change in someone else through the different events and just happenings all in our lives. And some of these portraits, paintings, and all that are the representations of that. And these three artists have some really amazing works that are very nostalgic, also very, very current and very jarring. And we are here to allow them to walk us through it, give us a little bit of background on who they are, and also talk about the stories behind these works. So we're really, really excited. Um, so we're going to start with first introducing each artist. We'll start with Elmer. Elmer, give a little bit of a background on your practice and your just your practice and where you're from.
Yeah. How's it going, everyone? By the way, I'm Elmer. So I'm originally from Los Angeles. I grew up in South Central, and I've been here in New York for on and off about 2 years. I'm studying at Hunter, doing an MFA here, and I started painting kind of like from graffiti into painting. So I did a lot of street art and urban art growing up, and so now I'm just painting. I'm pushing the paint.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Jonah.
Yeah, my name is Jonah. I'm originally from Houston, Texas. I've been staying in, working and staying in LA for about 3 years now. Um, got my MFA just recently, virtually graduated due to the times. Graduated with my MFA from Claremont Graduate University, and
All right.
my practice is pretty much reflect things in my memory. I've been doing assemblages, just using found objects and just really just having fun with the paint and objects.
Yes, sir. Brother Kamal.
From LA, born and raised. Shout out to the Claremont schools. I didn't go there, but my mom is a sage hen. Um, and yeah, I've been shooting pretty. I started taking it serious probably about almost 10 years ago now, and I just love getting lost in LA with my camera.
Facts, facts. Um, so while we get started and getting ready to walk into the exhibition, I kind of want to just start off by asking you guys, what was your first impressions of, participating in a virtual exhibition after, we've heard all about online viewing rooms and all that this summer. What was your first impression of a virtual exhibition?
Mm. Something like when I first heard about like a
Yeah.
virtual
Yeah, just doing virtual exhibitions, digital exhibitions, and then when I approached with the virtual exhibition.
man, at first I was scared, but I like your way of doing it. When I first heard about virtual, like when the the whole quarantine broke out, I was just like, man, I don't know if this is gonna work.
Yeah.
But now, like, seeing things like evolve and like the way people approach it, and especially the way you did it, like, it was just dope. It felt like I was actually in the gallery, and it made me wish, like, it made me feel like, dang, I wish we can go back to that time.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, I think this is like the future, you know, like when I saw what you put together, I feel like, you know, there's nothing like going to a gallery and seeing work firsthand, but you know, this could be something that goes along with any gallery in the future, you know, so that people that aren't in the city where a show is going to be put on, they can experience it too. So it's really, it could bring, you know, a lot of outside exposure in.
Definitely.
Yeah, I like when I remember seeing like the first ones start off like earlier this year, I was kind of I was a little like kind of concerned about like how people would take painting into
Mm.
like a virtual realm, just because it's so like the material is so important in a painting. So that was like my main thing. That I mean, I don't know how well that would achieve seeing it on a computer, but I mean, also too, the other thing, I felt like it would probably work best for like stuff that's digital already, like photography and video. I figured like for them, it'll be like a leg up, but for painting, I think it's still like one of those things that it's just hard to not see it in person for me. Just being a painter, you know, that's what I,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I totally understand that. You had to almost like rub your nose up against it to really feel
Yeah.
the painting and all of that. So with that being said, how much I know Kemal said it's a great extension, but how much uh reality or how much of the content do you think the collector or the visitor is able to view in this space versus the real physical representation? Do you think that it's maybe like a 10% drop off, or do you think it's actually enhanced, but it's just in a different way?
I think the way that I see it working is if like let's say for example somebody already like is familiar with the way you work
Mm-hmm.
and has already seen your work quite a bit of times,
Mm-hmm.
then I feel like that you can jump into a virtual thing. But I think it's still like it's hard, man. I don't know. It's just maybe because I'm so used to like going to a gallery and watching it and seeing it in person, but I mean, the other thing too is that I can't knock it because it's really like it's like all we got right now. So we got to make it work too. But I think yeah, I think it does something to painting or like sculpture. I think too. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. There's so much emotion that goes into every brushstroke of
Yeah.
a painting that it's like, you know, those. So yeah, for me, like digitally, it's cool, but yeah, I totally get it for sculpture, painting, um, that kind of stuff. It definitely, I think those are artworks you want to experience firsthand. You know.
Most definitely, and like works like you have Jonah too, especially with a lot of elements that are 3D. Seeing those, like I remember the one piece with the spinning wheel, you know, the spinning bike wheel. To able to experience that, you have to be inside of a physical space, and those are those elements that you could replicate them in a virtual space, but to actually experience them, you need that physical, you know, that seeing that wheel spin in front of you, or seeing certain elements of the painting, like a big strong brushstroke or thick paint on side of something. You know, you really don't get that feeling as if you would inside of the space. You guys are absolutely right. And I think you make a great point too, Elmer, with photography. It's almost possibly a easier transition because we're used to seeing photography digital.
Yeah.
So coming up on it and experiencing photography through our cell phones, through our computers on every day, it's not really a stretch to walk into a digital exhibition and view photography.
Yeah.
But, with sculpture and painting, one of the reasons why I like this platform when working with them is that it allowed for a more of a 3D representation with framing the works, with trying to get a little bit deeper, with being able to walk around, which
Yeah.
didn't take the place of it, but it allowed for a little bit more than just, throwing a painting on the website and saying, hey, this is our viewing room.
No,
Um,
that I definitely agree with you, man. The way that you set it up and you made the space feel like a space. So yeah, man,
Yeah,
that
and that was the hopes too, because we spoke in the beginning in our preparation for all of this is this will eventually be a physical, show, so to be able to have us see it in that element, it allows everybody to get familiar, say, oh, okay, I see how my works would actually look inside of a space, inside of, on this wall, next to this work, and also build so that kind of like when Kamal said, it's a extension of the exhibition. So when people come into the physical exhibition, they can feel like, oh, I know this artist, I know this work, I've
yeah.
seen it before. It's a familiarity, or I've listened to the talks and they now walk into the space knowing exactly who you are or having an idea of your work, and now they're just matching up that painting that they saw digitally now with physical, or even with shows that you have coming up, to where your new show Elmer that you got coming up at residency, congrats on that.
Thank you.
But they could see from the digital stuff like, man, I got to go check out Elmer's work in the new show, and then walk in there, and say, damn, this is exactly what I thought. Or,
Yeah.
buy Kamal's book or see Jonah's murals. Those type of things is a introduction, like you said, as an extension to the practice. So like I really, that's where I appreciate the virtual exhibitions and try to just extend the experience into something more while we're going into the real digital world of the blockchain, Bitcoin, and NFTs and all that good stuff. Um, so, with all that being said, let's enter the space and talk about these great works we got in here. So, move this up here. So, first we got Brother Jonah
No, man.
with this
First day.
the first day of school. So, we got to start with that one. It's the first day of school. I remember, seeing this piece in person. So this is kind of like an extension for me of that experience. I got a chance to visit Jonah at Claremont. I actually went to Claremont as well in Sotheby's program for grad school. So I was able to really get familiar with a lot of the artists in the Claremont program. And I actually met Jonah at our last exhibition, Metropolis, and he came through and introduced himself, and I checked out his work, and it was very, very dope. And when I went to visit, this was one of the pieces that really took me aback because it was very tall, it was very nostalgic, and very bold with the color. And I really enjoyed the placement of just the photograph because everyone knows about the first day of school and putting on some fresh sneaks and some fresh gear that you probably laid out the night before or even on that dresser right in the back. And that iron is the most important part of the whole thing. So Jonah, give us a little rundown on this piece, brother.
Oh man, you hit it right on the head with that one. But that one right there, it's like I was just reflecting. Like I was actually in like yesteryear, I guess you can say, and I was just thinking of those moments right before like school or like not being able to leave the house without ironing my pants, or that would be a problem in itself. And just though I was thinking about that shoe specifically, that shoe is like a nostalgic shoe. Like when I used to, like my first day of high school, everybody had the all-white Air Force Ones on. Like it was just like a simple shoe, and we had to wear uniforms. So it was like the khakis is just See, and then like Elmer said Uptowns, like it's so many names for that shoe. It's like Forces, Air Force Ones, or Phasos. There's just so many names. It's just like I like that connection that people have with just seeing simple things like that, like the iron or the dresser, the shoe. It took me back too.
Yeah. So like, what made you keep the colors very simple on this one? And not, you know, maybe add a different carpet or maybe add something that's sitting on the table. The elements in this painting is very, very straightforward. Um, almost, almost like a early modern painter. That had very minimal tools, and I think that's what stands out to me. Um, what's your favorite part of this piece?
My favorite part is probably the shadow. That's like, I know this like those small shadows that's like right in the front of the shoe.
Hmm.
It's like those shadows and the shadow up under the dresser. And I think, I kept it so simple. I was actually trying to, I still, like at the time, I wanted to put more things in it, but I was trying to stop myself from doing it. So this was like the the piece that I really like, had to like hold myself back and like, all right, Jonah, just chill. You don't have to add 10,000 things in this painting just to, the point can still get across with just a few things and less color. Cause I can go crazy sometimes, trip out.
Definitely. Was that the actual colors of your room and the actual dresser and all of that, or was that
Yeah,
a stage?
yeah, nah, definitely. That was definitely the walls of my color. I mean, the color of my walls. The floor was wooden, but I just liked the way that gray popped. And I actually did the floors. I did the lines in the other piece too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like we're going to definitely take a look at that piece in a bit. Like, what
Mm-hmm.
what prompted you to start this series? Like, was it did you actually start this on the first day of grad school, or like what?
Oh, nah. This series it kind of just I was just thinking back. I was reminiscing. I was like, man, what is like some things that I can connect with a lot of people that I went to high school with, or like just like a lot of people in my community. Like, what are like the small things that we connect with, and things that they can relate to. Like, if I was to take this to a gallery in the hood, like people, it'll be so relatable to people. So I was thinking about that, and it just led me to this series. And I was just like, sneakers, of course, and just like little simple things inside the house of a black household. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna leave it at this view because it's weird, and it looks a little funny too, like the way the guy is standing or the way I'm standing.
Yeah.
But and I was just like, I'm gonna just leave it at that and just continue this series and keep thinking about like little small things inside the household before we step out into the world.
Yeah. What I really liked about it, especially, in the theme of the exhibition, with it being kind of like a quote unquote portrait, is,
Mm-hmm.
with this angle is kind of like how someone would take cell phone photos for the gram, of some new sneaks, that they got. So this angle,
Yeah,
this choice of angle I thought was really, really dope, because it would be the same angle someone would be, doing with the camera looking down,
that was me.
trying.
That was me. Like, as soon as Instagram started to like the beginning stages of Instagram, it was like a hashtag for like shoes of today. And that
Yeah.
was something I would do like right before school, like any shoe I would have on. So I would actually do this angle. I didn't even think about that. That's probably where this angle came from.
That's so dope. That's so dope. So as we kind of get back and talking about youth, we switch over to Brother Elmer's piece. And the first piece of this one is Naive to the Game. I love the title. I love that you got Street Fighter in the background, that they're actually, look like they're fighting in front of the liquor market, which is awesome. And I haven't played Street Fighter in forever, and I might just play it this week. So, yeah, give us a rundown on this piece, Elmer.
Yeah. So
And you got the LA cap in there too.
yeah, it's definitely touching on nostalgia a lot, man. And just kind of this is kind of how it was in LA. Like when I was growing up, like all the laundromats had arcades. The liquor stores had like arcades that we would meet up after school and play. But the title, it's naive to the game, and because it's like in a way, if you look at the liquor store and then they're about to fight, it's like it's almost like it's trying to teach these kids like to prepare for the environment that's outside the
Mm.
game, but it's still like that outside environment is still inside this game. So
Mm.
it touches on that, like just trying to just how you become prepared to survive in this environment. I grew up in South Central, so it was kind of a rough neighborhood in the '90s when I was pretty young. So yeah, getting prepared for everything that's out there was pretty important.
So what were
Uh,
some of the video games that you used to play coming up on in the arcades? I know mine when Mortal Kombat first hit,
I
it
mean,
was insane, in there. Like
yeah,
you could not get a place, especially being smaller. You couldn't get a place on the arcade game unless you was either ready to fight or you was ready to pay for somebody's turn.
yeah.
So
I played a lot of the Street Fighter for sure, and like Metal Slug. I remember. Yeah, like I mean, for sure, those were probably the two main ones that were always like in every location, like on every corner, basically. The other thing too that I when I put this together, it was kind of I had just moved back over here, and I was living in Harlem.
mhm.
Well, I'm still living in Harlem now, but it just when I went back for like the COVID thing, it kind of I had just forgot how it was growing up in LA
Mm.
and how like a lot of politic within the neighborhood kind of tends to separate brown and black people in LA.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's like something that's infused by gang culture there too. But when I came to Harlem, it was like way different, man. Like
Mhm.
there was no color separation. Everybody was just kind of just like, yo, we're in the same neighborhood. So it was kind of this is kind of a little bit about like just that growing up in LA and like we were competing so much, like almost fighting all the time. You know, there was a lot of tension with black and brown folks in my neighborhood, and that's kind of what this is a little bit about too. It's just a brown kid and a black kid, and they're ready to like compete all the time in a fight game, but also like outside in like the environment itself.
Wow, that's so ill because like I don't know that I looked at that and got, you know, and understood that part of it, but that's such an important piece because with me being an East Coaster originally from Philly, and having the black and Latino community merge, you know what I mean? It's been different for me out in LA too to see, like a lot of the different division. So with
Yeah,
seeing that, and it seems like, like it happens as people get older because a lot of the younger folks in LA, they're they're usually rolling together. I see them on the little scooters, I see them in the playgrounds. They're usually having a great time,
yeah,
just like as if I've grown up on the East Coast. It seems the same to me, but it just seems like you said, the older element, we don't know if it's gangs or whatever, or just the machismo of just being an
yeah,
adult male, but somehow that just kind of goes away. And the same kids that could be playing in the laundromat or something like that will end up being rivals in future.
yeah,
So like I think that title is just like spot on,
yeah,
because we sometimes are naive to the game that's outside, because we are so coddled in our world, by our loving parents and our great environments, that we don't understand that there's a whole different world um, out there literally waiting for us.
yeah.
Um, so this was super fire to me,
Thank you, man.
and one of the reasons why I wanted to put it, next to Jonah's first day of schoolwork is because I felt those two related, and this would kind of be one of the first places I would go before school after I put on those sneakers.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like, because you always had the hour before school when you can get there early where the stores would open up because the kids were going to get their candy, take to school or whatever it was. And you would always spend a quarter because I used to get $1 every morning. My mom wouldn't give me no more than $1 because, you know, back then you had 25-cent chips, you had hugs. You can get a lot with $1 back in the day. So I would always spend a quarter out of that dollar and just play the game in the morning, you know. So being able to see this and, you know, rocking out before you either, you know, wait for the bus to go to school or to walk in was like super, super dope. So these two were like very nostalgic. And now getting to walk into and spin around a little bit in the environment, we get to walk over to, and then just a very emotional piece, super emotional piece by Kemal. And like this was like one of those pieces of the many photos that Kemal has that really just like man, like everything about this just shows emotion. And after like being naive to the game, you know, this is kind of like that naivete that we are kind of displaying because no one expected, you know, LA, the world to get hit so hard by, you know, protests and things like that after the murder of George Floyd. So come on, give us a background of this image.
So this was taken 2 days after George Floyd was murdered. I went to the Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. They had a weekly meeting that they had been doing for 4 years to get Jackie Lacey, the old DA, out of office. And so I went there thinking it was going to be a pretty big day, judging by what had gone on in Minneapolis prior to that. And yeah, there was hundreds of people there. After their weekly protest at the Hall of Justice, everyone started marching, and we went onto the 101 freeway, and that's where the gentleman in the other photo jumped on the hood of a CHP car and was thrown off and knocked unconscious for 5 minutes or so.
I remember.
And this was kind of her reaction, everyone's reaction to that happening.
Yeah, I remember seeing that on the news actually, because I remember I was working on something and it came up on KTLA, you know, that actual incident happened. And then I remember I was like, this is insane. And then I remember seeing you post photos from it. And I think I remember sending you a DM like, yo, bro, like these are insane. Like these shots are just insane. One of my favorite things about this is that, you know, everything about it is if you live in LA, you can see that it's LA. You see the traffic in the left, you know what I mean? You see that that's continuously going on. You see the metro bus with the actual LA, you know, right like almost as she's screaming, so kind of like she's like screaming out LA. Everybody's um poses or emotion in it is just like stuck. Like whatever happened, you don't even see the incident, but you know whatever happened is for real, you know? And also an element that's kind of like missed is the direction of the signs. Like they're kind of telling you, like the sign is telling you like kind of like go to the next photo. Like you're gonna see why she's screaming with that yellow arrow pointing to the next photo. Or you're going to you have the yellow arrows in the back, kind of like directing you to that guy. You know what I mean? Or even the yellow arrows pointing at the guy next to her. You know, like saying like, look at his expression. You know, there's really so much going on, and then on the right side, a representation of that traffic again, because again it's backed up with the red light. So it's I found it like this to be supremely LA, um, but also at the same time, like that mission sign, that mission road sign is like, you know, what was the mission? You know, was the mission of the photographer to, you know, to make sure to be there to capture this moment for these times? Because you certainly did that. But what was your mission?
I mean, my mission was to just be there and experience it, and hopefully, you know, shed some light on some of the injustices going on in the Black and Brown communities, um, and dealing with police brutality. Uh, you know, I have a pretty big following on Instagram. If I can bring awareness to anything that's going on like that, I feel, you know, that's part of my job, especially as a street photographer.
Most definitely. And here's the resulting image from that, which I thought was such a beautiful capture again, to where like did was the guy out there, did he just come out with the cross out of nowhere? Did he already have that with him, or
He already had that. He was marching with everyone.
Mhm.
Um, and I think more importantly, this set right here, like it it really, and that day like set the tone for not only that weekend, which was super chaotic and stuff in LA, but for the whole summer of protests in LA,
Mhm.
because it didn't, it, you know, even after that weekend, it kept going and going, you know. And shout out to Black Lives Matter LA. They accomplished so much this year.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, they got Jackie Lacey out of office. Now they're at Garcetti's every day, making sure he doesn't go to DC. I mean, the calculated way that they move
Mhm.
is, if you haven't gone out, you should get out there, because it's really beautiful to watch.
Yeah, man. Like it's you know, being having the chance to, you know, be out there on some of these protests and be out there with the drone and just see, you know, just a different angle, you know, of a perspective of what's going on. It's very overwhelming. I remember the first couple of days, and when I was out there on Beverly, you know, in the Beverly, and we talked about being out there on Beverly and Fairfax when that was going down, you know, but just taking the drone up and seeing how many people were there, you know, and when we talk about like the different division in that moment, it was black, brown, white, Asian, you know, just all of LA really together, you know, really marching together. And then to see that from that angle, it was amazingly powerful. And, you know, just like you were saying, you know, every time we went there, like it was very organized. There was a lot of people who didn't care about what color you were. You know, they just cared about that, you know, people were murdered and people were being abused and they wanted to do something about it. And I thought that was like just super dope. And I was just blessed to be able to be out there at this time, because we always hear about these times in our, you know, our grandfathers and mothers and our mothers and fathers talk about different things, or well, you know, the 1960s this, or you know, the 1992 riots and all that. This happened, that happened, but to actually experience it firsthand and to see um, just the frustration, you know, and people being fed up of the way they're treated, it was very emotional, and it was something you can't really explain. And it's I know that hearing those stories of these other you know, protests weren't, you know, over exaggerated, because these things, it really went down um during these protests. um
Yeah, and just to clarify too, you know, there was a lot of talk about looters and stuff like that. The people that came out and were doing that were on a whole different agenda,
Fact.
and they were out there to hijack. Um, from what I saw, you know, everyone was protesting really peacefully. Um, and anytime there was a component of police mixed in, it
Hmm.
their their presence alone was what, you know, escalated situations.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, I just wanted to make it clear that, you know, the people out there that were doing the looting and stuff like that, they were out there just, you know, co-opting
Yeah.
the protests and taking advantage with their own agenda.
Yeah,
But
man.
everything that I saw, everyone was out there super peaceful. There was a lot of, you know, togetherness, a lot of bonding. It was a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, brother. I mean, like one of the things, and it's interesting how um these different images, you know, tell so many different stories, you know, of that work, because the image and also the video of the art gallery on Melrose, you know, that got hit up viciously, you know, during that
I
period
was
of,
there that day. I saw that going down.
yeah, like
With
that.
the cause.
Because yeah,
Yeah,
like that was
yeah.
insane, you know, and to see that, for that to go viral, you know, amongst thousands of other images that could have gone viral, was kind of like showing how powerful different media is, you know what I mean, and how certain images can show and direct people to different forms of media, which
But
is,
again, that gallery on Melrose, I saw plenty of people standing in front, you know, literally trying to block people
yeah,
from getting into that gallery. You know, so again, it was
that-
a separate group of people who they had their own agenda. They're like, we're gonna try to come up today.
yeah, they
So
definitely
so
was
it
going to
was
step up.
it was two separate. You know, I just, you know, wanted to make sure that was driven home.
Most definitely appreciate that. So as we move on to the next work by Brother Elmer, we got Social Distance, which is very interesting too, because as we talked about the protests and all, I know a lot of people that wanted to attend the protests, but they were also still scared of the COVID outbreak. So I know a lot of homies that was like, man, I would love to be out there. I would love to go out there. Like but I'm scared as shit. You know what I mean? There's 30,000, 40,000 people, especially that one day on Hollywood Boulevard, where it was, I mean, it probably had to be about 50,000 people stretching all the way down to East Hollywood. And I remember one of the photos that I posted, and someone tagged under it, was like, man, I just see a whole bunch of COVID, which made me, you know, kind of like laugh in a little bit, you know, kind of like a weird, sinister laugh. But I also got to thinking about, you know, how many people, you know, would love to be out there, would love to partake in something like this, but they can't. A lot of the elderly, a lot of the disabled, people that didn't have transportation to get to certain places. So Elmer, talk to us about this piece, and where do you see the social distancing happening in this work?
Yeah. So I don't know if you could see the title, but I wrote social like a little different than it's spelled.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like been like the solitude thing with like my mother too. When I went back to LA and I couldn't go see her for a while, you know. But that it's like a portrait of my mom on the other side in the other building, and so yeah, I kind of took up the challenge. I used to make work that was very like fragmented and like kind of busy.
Hmm.
And I've been I think Jonah kind of talked a little bit about his work and how he tried to limit just the, like, I tried to narrow down the context and like the stuff that I'm putting into the picture,
Yeah.
and just kind of like even like me being on this side of the building and like my presence not being there, but besides the bottle, um yeah, I tried to just limit, narrow down like the elements that are in there, but also just try to hold like a lot of the like narrative still there, you know. uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, it just touches back to like not being able to, like, having to be distant from my parents and stuff like that, you know, that almost everyone was facing at the time.
Yeah, I mean, because, you know, one of the things that I saw immediately was like, man, I wonder, are they in two different houses? You know, like is it's almost like, because she's totally distanced from us in the painting,
Yeah.
which really shows, and it's like mom's all the way in the back, so from this perspective it's almost like, has the relationship had to be I guess kindled through more of like it kind of in a sense seems like when a person has to visit, like a mother has to visit their son in prison.
Right.
You know what I mean? When you have to look
It,
through the
it, it kind
glass.
of felt like that. It kind of felt like
Yeah,
that initially. Yeah, for sure. It was like yeah, you could be like when you go visit someone, you could be like right in front of the person, but because there's that border of glass, there's still like that separation and distance.
yeah.
Um,
It kind of being knowing a little bit about with you being in school and you being away, um,
yeah.
having that distance when you're even so close still. It kind of it kind of speaks very loud, in this painting, because not only have you been away at school, but now you're in proximity to your family, but you still can't, it's like you're almost getting there, but you can't really just touch. Um,
Right.
so talk about how being socially distanced away from friends and family and even LA has affected the work.
Um, I mean, it's kind of different now, I think, because like, I mean, you could still be distanced from people, but a little less. Kind of, I think we're more used to like the virus being around. But this was kind of like in the beginning where it was just kind of like, oh shit, we gotta all stay away from each other. But I think the work that I'm doing now is kind of going back to just the normal kind of stuff I was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but this was just kind of like a immediate reaction to the time, I think. Yeah.
So like in with the dark color, is that a sink down there? I was trying to make out of what actually that was deep in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bunch of dirty plates, and it's kind of like if you think about it, like in a metaphor, it's sort of like just a jam lifestyle or clutterness, like it's kind of like how my lifestyle is here. Like I'm always just on the move and working in fast New York pace, and those all these little things just kind of like speak on that a little.
Yeah.
And then also I use bottles, like you can see the bottle on the right and you can see a bottle on the other apartment. But I
Hmm.
use bottles to like kind of speak on like what I'm thinking. Like my thoughts will be in the bottle as a liquid, almost like it's holding a vessel of thought. And so those are like two pictures of my parents and when they were younger. So I'm kind of like
Oh,
I'm thinking of them, of being away from them, but also like, oh shit, like I'm kind of missing out on like them aging because I'm away. So I think about stuff like that because I'm alone over here.
yeah, yeah. I know that feeling. It's kind of like an unfinished business type of feeling, you know, in,
Yeah,
in that sense. And also, it's like I thought it was cool when I looked at the dishes, because I was like, anytime I would leave dishes in the sink and my mom saw them, it would be a problem,
yeah,
So
right. Yeah, for sure. Same idea with me, like with my mom's. But like, it's like when you live alone, you're kind of like it's different. You kind of I
yeah.
don't wash the dishes every night. Like sometimes I don't have time for that shit. So it's just I don't know. It's just there to show like a clutter. It's kind of like oh shit, I'm always like busy and don't have time to do it. But
Yeah,
it's just so that's the whole concept of like trying to narrow down to like oh shit, it's just plates that are dirty, but it can go beyond just that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah,
Most definitely.
yeah,
All right, so we move on to the second edition of Jonah's nostalgic series, and we got nothing is something. So explain. We have the same angle here, but
Yeah.
now we have a different room. It seems like this person, this Jonah, went to school and cashed out. You know, he
Boy,
came home, he got some Jordans, he got some money in the box. You know,
got
he went
fresh.
to school, he cashed out. He came home, and mom's like, "Where the hell you get them sneakers from?"
He went and got fresh. But actually, you know what? This was the same room. I actually had painted my room brown after the light blue phase because my aunts did the light blue when I was younger, and then I was like, man, let me get rid of this as I got older. And then when I was older, I was starting to like hustle and like, you know, I was trading shoes, selling shoes, and that's where I would go and take my money and put it in the shoebox, or you
Yeah.
know, if I was selling something at school or just trying to like, you know, get some ends. And what I did, I cut up $1 bill and I kind of like glued it to that little shoebox inside the shoe. I only cut up $1. I couldn't do more. But I was just thinking about like, you know, sometimes $1 is something. Kind of how like you have $1 before you go to school, or you know, however much money you have, you bring back. Sometimes you leave with $1, but you try to come back home with it, and that's something.
Facts.
That's
Or
what
you know, come home with 2, maybe even 3.
yeah.
So explain the difference in adding the, you know, instead of going away from just the bold color of the last one, explain the detail in this one, because now we see which looks like Jabot jeans, you know, and also the difference in the structure of the sneaker, the Jordans, of course. You still got the shadows, but the placement is still the same, but the detail of the elements are different.
Yeah, so I felt like I wanted to start like, you know, building more on the room. So actually putting like the wooden floors in. So I think like as I continue to do this series, it's gonna start to like fill in, and it's gonna start to like actually show like a little story behind it. So the floors would be, you know, an actual color, not gray. It'll be brown, like a wooden, you know, stain on it. And like the pants, it was just like, at the time, well, this is actually my friend's clothing line, and I was like kind of like giving him a nod, you know,
Yeah.
trying to promote him in a sense. And I was like, yeah, let me go ahead and throw these on here because this is a little more present and a little more like now. And I had just got those sneakers too, so it was just like things I had just acquired, and I was like, let me go ahead and throw all this stuff on here. And I was just thinking about how like we can't even get fresh no more and go out into the world. So I was combining this elements from then and now, and I was like, I don't even have to dress up. I haven't even wore those shoes. I bought them for no reason. It's like I can't even go out into the world because we're in a whole different situation right now.
Do you see these works as kind of like your self-portrait?
Yeah, a little bit. I think so. Yeah, I think it's more of a self-portrait. At first, I was just doing it, and I was just like, nah, this not me. But as I continued to build on that room, I was like, it's obviously me. And it's like the things that I'm putting in it is like the things that I have. And I was like, yeah, this is definitely me. And these are things I did, putting money in shoeboxes to save, and, you know, saving up to get J's, and, you know, when I get them, putting them on and getting fresh.
So if there was a 20, let's say a 2022 version of this painting, you know, what would the new elements look like? What would include in the new Jonah works?
If this was 2022,
Yeah, if this was 2022, how would this painting look?
I think I might just flip it. I might turn them a different way. Or I think I might actually you know, have like more elements in the house, like more of an ironing board, or, you know, I think I would still be reflecting on like the early 2000s, or, you know, late 90s type, that era, and still like trying to combine it with what's going on in 2022, if that makes sense.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. So as we start to talk about the future, I want to kind of chime back into Kemal's works. Kemal, you have an amazing book that's out, and how do you see your photography, you know, moving into the future to being able to capture this new I don't want to say regime, but this new wave of a political structure that we have coming in. How do you see these images playing, or in comparison or a contrast to maybe future images? How do you see or potentially see the world in the future?
I mean, hopefully with the new administration, we can kind of get back to a little sense of normalcy
Mm-hmm.
and less of a like reality TV show type
Mm-hmm.
type
Thanks.
life we've been living. I mean, and you know, I think more than anything, we gotta just try and find some middle ground.
Yeah.
We're way too divisive right now, and it's just it's not good for anybody.
Yeah.
Like we need to have probably some tough conversations, but hopefully, you know, through that we can heal a little bit, and just kind of hopefully just get past this past 4 years, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Hell yeah. Like it just seems like even though the election's over for the most part and everything, it just still seems like we have this shadow over us until it happens. No one's going to believe that it actually really happened.
Well, yeah, I mean, even to this day, we have a guy who's just pumping fear, and he's been pumping fear into the U.S. for 4 years straight, and he has, you know, bullhorns like Fox News and whatever other, you know, media outlets want to show his stuff that is continuing to divide and push this like hate narrative.
Yeah.
Where, you know, and just fear. Everything's fear based, you know, like be scared of this. I mean, it sucks with COVID too, because that just threw in a whole nother fear element to everything.
Yeah.
To the point where, you know, we're just kind of like looking over our shoulder everywhere. So, you know, I'm hoping in the next 4 years we can kind of relax a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we have a long way to go, you know, but it always starts top down.
Yeah.
So if you know, and Biden, I mean, he may not be everybody's best choice, but I mean, he seems like a good person at least.
He's Trump. He's not Trump.
You know. So, yeah, I'm just hoping we can, you know, have some tough conversations and through that, like, have some healing.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'll be able to capture that in 2021.
Most definitely. So Elmer, tell us a little bit about the future coming up for you, and how do you see your work evolving and things you're looking forward to?
Man, so I've been working for a while for my show in January at Residency, Art Gallery in LA. And, you know, it's just because I'm in school, man, I'm always just producing a lot, which is good. Like, it keeps me busy. For the most part, like, my work is kind of like living within like family narratives and stuff like that now. So I'm not too sure if that's what I'll end up just continue to do. But for now, that's where I'm at, you know, just kind of trying to like, depict like all these like stories that like come from my family, basically.
Most
Yeah.
definitely. Most definitely. Yeah. All right, as we get ready to wrap it up, we're coming up on our hour. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for, first of all, being a part of this exhibition, and then secondly, taking the time out to talk with us about the works and, you know, give us a little bit more detail about everything. Thank you to everybody who joined us and the future people that'll be watching this. We really appreciate you checking out the exhibition, the kind words that we've been getting about it. I mean, the emails and the DMs about the show and all the works have just been overwhelmingly just awesome. And we look forward. Please check out, you know, these guys' works, their websites, their pages. Please support them. And we look forward to seeing so much more from them in the coming weeks and years. And thank y'all guys so much for being a part of this. And yeah, let's keep rocking. Let's keep rocking.
Badir, thank you so much for all the hard work, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Thank you, bro.
Thank y'all, man. Thank y'all. It's a team effort. It really, really is. Like we all did it together, and we're going to continue to work. And as long as we keep building our community of creatives, we'll be unstoppable. You know. So, all right, gents. Y'all have a great night. Thank you also to everybody who's joining us too.